What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Talkback Corner podcast. We're coming in with episode 11. This episode, we're going to answer a question that was presented to us. Where do I fit in the music mix? My instrument that I'm playing, where does it fit in? Does it matter? Am I making a difference? Do I count? Am I important? We're going to be answering that question. We're glad that you are back with us. Going to hang out with us for a little while. We hope that you enjoy this episode. Like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. Do whatever you want to do. Just listen and have fun.
You're listening to Talkback Corner, a podcast by church musicians for church musicians, giving you an inside look into our story and our passion for music. Our goal is to inspire musicians not to just play an instrument, but worship with that instrument and use their talents to further the kingdom of God.
Just cut that part out.
Like I'm trying to salvage it, and I feel like it's just getting worse.
It is. It's getting more awkward and more awkward and more awkward and even awkwarder than that. It's like an awkward duct.
That's what I was about to say.
Oh, man. I just bookmarked that part of the audio so I could go back and hear it again.
Yeah. Might want to go back and cut it out completely.
All right, so
Ready now.
kick it off again. So, everyone, welcome back to Talkback Corner. This is episode 11. We are so glad you have decided to join us. Hopefully, you can see a few visual upgrades we have made to the studio. We want to thank our sponsors, who shall remain nameless, for granting us this awesome new podcast table.
Thank you.
Yes, greatly appreciated. But so tonight's question that kicked off this episode is, I want to go ahead and read it, but I think it's a topic that we can expand on and then hopefully shed some light in a whole bunch of other areas. So specifically, the question that was asked was, would y'all be willing to make a podcast about the aux keys instrument and how to play it? Sometimes when I'm playing, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. Am I just supposed to fill in? Do I play lead notes? And I think that's a common area of confusion, not just for aux keys per se. If you're a lead guitar player and you're in a song that doesn't have a whole lot of lead guitar riffs, it's more, if it's modern worship music, you're kind of just holding chords anyway, right? So the question may be, well, what am I supposed to play here? So I think it's a topic we can address, of course, answering the aux keys question, but also the general question of where do I fit in? How do I use my instrument to really be part of the band? How can I improve the band in general as in my instrument? So specifically, y'all jump in anytime you want. But so specifically thinking about aux keys, I think I can answer that question pretty easy. And surprise, if you watch to the end, you may see some examples of said stuff we're going to talk about tonight. But when I think about aux keys, I specifically think that it's not just one instrument, right? The term aux keys literally comes from auxiliary keyboard. You're a second keyboard player. Just like if you have two guitar players, one of them is going to play back up to the other one, right? Except that the aux keys instrument is more going to play back up to the entire band and complement everything that's going on. A lot of people are just going to think that it plays a pad and it just holds and it's just kind of this atmospheric sound, but it doesn't have to be, right? So when I think aux keys, I specifically think about 5 different main instruments you would be using, right? I think about, and I can show these two at the same time. Let me turn around to my piano. So when I think, see, this is bad. Now I can't see y'all because y'all could be laughing at me.
We are. No, we need you overhead looking right at you.
An overhead camera.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That would have been a good idea.
Sponsorship next time.
So when I think specifically about aux
GoPro?
keys, yeah, our
Yes.
sponsors, we could use a new camera.
Well, they've done give us a table.
When I think specifically aux keys, I think about 5 different main instruments. So your main piano is going to play a piano sound, right? And that can come in different things. A very digital sounding, very aggressive. You can play something that's more mellow, like an upright sounding piano, right? One major aux keys instrument is going to be the electric piano. Without a doubt, one of my favorite things to play, right? Right? It's going to have that real crisp sound. And granted, if somebody's playing piano, that's a very, like me, I'm a lead piano player, I would say, then you're going to play more just backup to that, right? Just kind of fill in, right? So that's when I think that's one of the main instruments an aux keys piano player would play. So another one, if y'all can bear with me, probably
We can
the one
bear.
we can bear. Probably the one people are more familiar with is going to be something more just like a pad sound. Right? That's very common for, I would say, modern worship music.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you're going to expect to hear.
We're so glad that you joined us again at our loving Father's Wheat Harvest Field Church in the plains of
Nebraska.
Nebraska. We invite you to stay with
Ugh.
us
It got scary.
as we dive in to our Daddy God scriptures.
This is Family Talk with Dr. Jesse Scrockins.
I'm sorry, I'm dying. So, kind of with that can also be a string sound, right? Something to really fill in the music. So, I think of pads and strings kind of as the same thing, but not, right? They both do the same thing. They
And
both
really
fill
make
space.
a difference.
Yes,
They
they,
really
do.
do.
100%.
They- and-
100%.
I'm going to say a lot of times you don't even realize that they're there.
Oh, yeah. No, they're not supposed to be like the main thing that
But
you're
when
hearing.
you hear them and they're there, and then you hear the music and they're not there, it does make a difference. Like you said, they're kind of a backup piano. As you play aux keys, you have to pay attention to what the lead piano's doing, and don't be playing lead on top of lead.
Yeah.
But
Right.
that kind of stuff, like you were saying, fills in a lot of the gaps.
Yeah.
So, and to make a point, Jesse will feel this too. The difference between having to worry about a backup sound on your piano, like, okay, well, this pad's sounding. You can play a bunch of piano notes, but if your pad's running every single one of them, you have to lift your pedal more. It's something extra you have to think about as a piano player, as opposed to if you have somebody doing that. That's one less thing on your mind, on your plate, right?
I think too, a pad, like say you're doing a 4-chord progression. Let's just go 6-4-1-5. I think it sounds better when the pad doesn't hit all the chords in the progression.
Oh, 100%.
Maybe they hit the 6 and the 1 and leave out 4-5, or they hit 6 and resolve on 5, or something, and that way that the pad's not doing too much in the background.
Yeah.
But still complementing the music. But as to your point, you can't do that if you're playing your pad on your
Exactly.
main piano.
It plays every note you play.
It plays every note you play.
I could see it being a hard swap for a pianist that wants to do aux keys,
Yeah.
but doesn't fully understand, okay, this is what aux keys does.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it would be a very mumbled up, jumbled up mess. Things like aux keys, percussion, that gives the band a bigger space to play in.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of the pressure off on killing that silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
It gives you breathing room.
It says, okay,
Yeah.
this is not going to be dead space as far as music is concerned because there's something here. So
You know what I like about a good pad? And I know we keep talking about filling space, and I'm just going to keep, I guess, beating that point. But I like it because I find myself a lot, especially if you're doing, and I'm sure all the listeners are, involved with church music, but just about probably any live music's using in-ears nowadays.
Yeah.
And we don't have sound techs for every musician or anything like that, but we obviously run our own mix. And so if I'm making on the spot adjustments, especially if I'm playing piano and the mixer is right here for my in-ears, I have to stop my left hand, go over there and, reach over there, try to make a mix and then come back. And it helps if that pad or something is filling in that space
100%.
so that I can reach over there, do what I need to do, and then come back to playing without disrupting the song. Maybe I need a drink of water, whatever it is. It gives you drums. Obviously you can't stop.
Yeah.
No matter what, you can't stop. Maybe we had a click track, but it gives all the other instruments that kind of ability to, if you need to like take a millisecond break,
Yeah.
you can without worrying about it. So that's one thing I really like about pads.
Well, and you take a slow song that you want it to start out slow. From a drummer's perspective, there's only so much you can do without it being considered that you're not doing enough. So you want it to be almost to where the only thing going is the piano and the vocals. But in certain settings, that can be very awkward. Like in my ears, it sounds good, but in an auditorium or in a church or whatever, it can sound kind of dead space and quiet and awkward. It's where pads could come in and fill that background noise to where the keyboard is just playing the high spots of what's going on. The aux keys can just kind of be that feel.
Yeah.
Then the drummer can say, okay, I can be more creative with what I'm doing here because I don't have to worry about hitting this or hitting that because there's not a dead space. The aux keys can give a full sound background, a full I don't even know what I'm trying to think of, like atmosphere almost.
Yeah. I mean, you would describe it as an atmospheric sound. So yeah, agree with that.
Show us a couple of the auxiliary, like aux keyboard riffs on some songs that we do at church.
So like more lead
So
style.
like Heaven.
Oh, I was going to say.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so
okay.
you do have aux keys that plays like pads.
Correct.
Then you've got aux keys that then steps into the lead and doesn't take over the piano, but hits things that the piano can't get to, or if you've only got two hands, you can only do so much at a piano, so that the aux keys can step in. Or it may be something like you were saying that's a synth sound that the pianist is also needing to play a piano sound.
Yep.
And so show us what some of those
100%.
so that someone listening could listen to the song and pick it out and be like, okay, that's what aux keys would be.
Gotcha.
So first of all, play the aux keys for the song Over and Over, because that's a slow start out, a slow song that I noticed was awkward if I wasn't doing a whole lot.
Over and Over. The one we did recently?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know it may take a minute to pick it out, but y'all just bear with us.
Okay. So that one, I mean, legit on. So say the verse of that song. This is all the aux keys would be doing.
And you can imagine that blasting through a sound system. It's kind of filling the room.
Yeah.
So what would the piano sound like on that song?
Okay. So specifically piano on that song. Wait, here, let me turn off the pad.
So it's two completely different sounds
Yeah.
Yeah. That
That-
would be kind of a piano with a little bit of aux.
added together would sound. Did you take all the synth out of that piano?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just straight.
So play something that you would play with. So play it with the synth added back in as the piano player with no aux keys, just to show everything you would have to do to get that sound.
So do all of it now
All
at
of
the
it.
same time.
Yep, all of it at the same
Okay.
time. You're the only piano player. There's no aux keys. You're having to
Well,
do it all.
First of all, I have to manually add in
Yeah.
the string part
Yeah.
because that
It's
was
a lot easier for me to just.
I don't have that
say
on
it.
that patch. But then, see, the
It
pad
takes-
and strings are doing too much
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're trying to do everything the
It takes
keyboards
away
do.
that slow,
Yep.
like
So what keys were you playing there? Or what numbers?
463.
So if you started on that 4 and then resolved on 3 and skipped the 6 on pads, obviously you could.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what?
I was just saying you could obviously if you're doing main keys, but if you're doing pads or strings or whatever, and instead of doing 4 6 3, just 4, you start it and then
That's
resolve
yeah,
3.
That's actually what I started doing. 'Cause just one less note to play.
But that, like you said, it kind of sounded. Obviously, it sounds good if you're the only one up there able to do it. But if you have an aux player, that shows how much better it is to have someone designated towards it that can know. Okay, I'm pads, so I'm kind of background, so I'm just gonna start and resolve, or something like that.
Yeah. A big part, I guess, of modern worship music is going to be that filling in, making it sound bigger than it could be without it.
Right.
I guess is a good way to put it.
so. Since we're at this point, do you want to cut and do that and split? Is it possible to split, or is that going to be a bunch of stuff to do?
I don't know. It would be a lot of buttons, but we could.
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
And we're back. Sorry for the delay there, but we had to set this up so we could show it. So they're fixing to play 2 different rounds of music. One of them they're going to do the 4/6. Jesse's going to play 4/6/3, right?
I'm gonna play every note with him.
Oh, he's going to play every note with him. And then the next round, Jesse's going to play aux keys, but it's going to be a simpler version so that you can hear how simpler can
Yeah,
be
like
better.
something different than what I'm doing. And the second round, I'll turn my keyboard down too, so you can hear it better.
Yep. Are y'all going to stop or just play straight through?
No, we'll just play straight
Okay.
through.
All right. So sit back, enjoy, listen, pay attention. Here we go. And without changing the tempo or changing the beat of the drum, you've slowed the song down and you've given that slow intro feel to a song. That's one of the many purposes that aux keys has, to fill in that spot.
I like that. That was a great example.
It was.
That was a great example. Cool. So I would say most of your aux keys playing is going to be more atmospheric fill-in style like that. There are some times when you're not going to be doing that. You're going to be playing more lead lines. if I may.
Go ahead.
If I may. I can't help it. I like that run. So that'd be an example where aux key is a main driving part of that song. The church comes alive.
Yeah. So show me what aux keys should not sound like.
On
Play heaven, but not the aux keys part. Play the main piano part
okay.
with aux keys. Does that make sense? You are on the aux piano tonight, and you're a piano player that is wanting to play aux keys,
Okay.
but you can't kind of grasp what you need to be doing. No, just him playing that, and you play basically lead piano with the aux keys.
Ah, okay. Great example.
You know
Great
what I'm
example.
saying?
Great example.
Because I'm gonna say that's 9 times out of 10. If a pianist switches to aux keys, this is what you're gonna hear.
Okay, good. So what? So you would use one of two instruments, I would think. You'd use something like strings, or you would use something like organ. What would you prefer to hear?
Organ, just because you haven't done it yet.
Okay. So this would be somebody that's coming from piano to playing aux keys, and they're not really sure what's supposed to do on aux keys, right? So they're going to play it like a piano.
Right.
Oh, okay. It's really choppy because organs don't have sustain.
I don't know why I asked you to do that. You kind of made it sound good. But you can imagine you're playing that, and there's a piano player playing
Right.
a piano.
It's stepping all over what the piano player's doing.
Yeah, and guitar's playing guitar. You know,
Right.
It creates a mess.
When ideally you would do something like this. Right, totally different style.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to sing a song to that.
Correct. Yeah.
However,
no, you would almost never have aux keys as an instrument by itself because it's not meant for that, right?
right.
But that's a great example. So your main instruments you're going to be using at aux keys to kind of bring this discussion to a head. You're going to have an electric piano, strings and pads, organ, and some synth stuff.
Yep.
Synth stuff can
And there's
include
going to be thousands of variations of all.
Oh,
5 of
100%.
those.
But so a couple notes with that. One, do not, as an aux keys player, stress about getting your sound perfect for the song that you heard on the radio and you want that exact same sound that they, no.
Refer to our last episode.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you're you, not them, so you should sound like you.
Right. And
so
create your own style.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't obsess over the individual sounds. And it's more about learning the individual groupings of instruments that we just demonstrated and knowing how those are played.
Yeah. What songs require what? What songs?
Exactly.
You're not going to do that slow swell on a fast song.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So
like a good you're talking about styles and such. So like the other day when Matt and I swapped from aux keys to I guess you could say main keys.
Did the switcheroo.
We did the switcheroo.
Which
Had
we
permission and everything.
which we apologized for.
But Matt's a way, way, way better lead keys than I am.
That's opinion.
And so on Heaven, that run, well, it done two things. Number one, it made me be able to play Heaven and just focus on the basics.
Yep.
I'm not worrying about all the lead.
Yep.
I'm just focused on the basics. and he's gonna hide me, and so that's one thing done. But also, if Matt's playing that song with no aux keys, he's trying to play the basics on the piano and do the run on his MIDI, so it's taking some off of him too. So when you're on piano, you don't always have to play lead notes. Aux keys can play it
For sure.
sometimes too, and the same way around. Sometimes piano's going to take off, and so maybe you can't just play lead piano. Well, there is a place for you, either on piano or aux keys. Some songs you'll fit in perfect. In the same way, maybe you can't just sit back and relax and you got to play those lead notes. There's some songs that you'll fit on both instruments, you know? So I think there's a give and take there where you don't have to, oh, well, I'm aux, so I'm never going to be heard or something like that, or I'm never going to play lead notes, because that day will come, especially with songs that are coming out now. Every one of them has a lead riff somewhere, and a lot of them are being played now on synths, pads, something like that, some type of.
So aux keys at a church can open up two new realms. One is you're bringing new pianists to play the piano, because, like Jesse said, they're not having to worry about doing all the fancy stuff.
Well, it's like lead guitar. If lead guitar drops out of the song because something went horribly wrong, the song can still go on.
Yeah.
As opposed to if drums quits.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And you can do the opposite, put the new keyboardist on aux keys just to play the simple stuff, while the experienced keyboardist, whoever, plays everything that they can on the piano, and it's taking pressure off of this aux key player, because they're just focusing on basics.
Yeah.
So this leads into a good topic, which we will further discuss off camera, or not off camera, but out of here.
Y'all don't get to see it or hear it.
Out of here in another
Setting.
But we'll talk about it here.
Which is why we said watch to the end.
Yeah, you got to watch to the end to see it.
Don't just skip to the end. Watch to the end.
What is we've kind of went through drums and bass, but what role does each instrument play in a band? And I like to think of it this way, as you have a Southern gospel quartet or something like that, or a barbershop quartet. You've got a tenor, a baritone, a lead, or a soprano. Is that right? And a bass.
Yeah. Lead, tenor, baritone, bass.
Yeah. So you've got 4 different parts that are all different, but they harmonize well.
Mm-hmm.
So bass would be the bass. The lead, to me, would be piano, and the tenor would be the guitar. And then the baritone would be like a
Your drummer.
drummer. I don't know.
No,
I'm
they're
trying to
doing the
think of-
snap. The snap is
That's the
the
drummer.
snap is the drums.
Baritone would be like a rhythm guitar or something.
Okay. Yeah.
But you think of it like that, not as each piece being their own thing, but they're all coming together to make one harmonized sound.
Yeah.
So within each area, you have like a branch off of that. So except for bass, the bass is just the bass, which you could do pads, have someone playing pads. I don't know how common that is. But lead guitar, you've usually got lead and acoustic. If you've got a full band, you've got a lead and a rhythm, which is usually acoustic, or it could be electric, but it's a rhythm guitar. That kind of does what the aux keys does for piano,
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
but for the guitar section.
Mhm.
And you can speak to this more than I can on the sound side of things, but each instrument has its own
It has its frequency range.
range.
That it's going to be, they call it the fundamental.
Yeah.
They call it, whoever
They.
they are. It's the fundamental of the instrument, covers different areas of the frequency range, right? Drums and bass is going to be your bottom end that really makes it hit. Your piano, your pad type is going to fill in that kind of low mid to mid, and then your guitars are going to be more that
in
upper
the
mid.
highs.
Upper mids.
So you got acoustic guitar, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, piano, aux keys.
And for sake of
Also-
argument, we'll say aux keys includes organ.
Yeah, I was gonna say also organ, but I mean, you can have aux keys and organ and piano.
Yeah.
And then drums has percussion. So percussion looks different everywhere you go, depending on the style of music you play. Percussion, to me, in a live setting, can take the spot of a click track. It can free up a drummer as far as not having to do so much. Some of these like jazz bands and stuff that you see that they'll play an instrumental or whatever, the percussion guy is the one doing the work. The drummer is just kind of keeping time.
Yeah.
The percussion guy is all over the bongo drums and the marimbas or whatever. The tambourine, the
Doing a shaker with his feet.
shaker, yeah, the maracas, all that. Some of them even have xylophones
Yeah.
as part of their percussion. So percussion is what aux keys is. Percussion to drums is what aux keys is to piano. So you take all that and you put it together, and you've got this beautiful harmony that all of the cracks are filled in. You've taken each little piece, each little missing part in those frequencies, and filled it with those sub instruments, those extras.
Yeah.
So
No, I don't think you could have described it any better. It's my dad used to help bands, musicians a ton. And so that's why I flinch whenever somebody gets on to me because I remember the beatings I took. But he would always say, the more instruments you put in a band, the less that each individual person is actually playing, right? Because each of them is filling up more and more space. We were jamming, the three of us plus Caleb, Sunday night or so? I think it was Sunday night.
Yeah.
And you said, break out the electric piano and let's jam after church, right? All of us started all of us at the same time. You're like, wait, no, one at a time, right? And there's only four of us, but we were all trying to shred at the same time. It sounds terrible,
It was
right?
just a mumbled up, jumbled up mess.
Yeah. Each of you takes a section and you lead that section, and the others, what are we doing? We're just back up. All we're
Keeping
doing.
the background going.
Right. That's one extreme example of what, by the time you get to a 7 or 8 piece band, each individual person's not doing much, right?
Yep.
Because the space is filled.
And somebody's not, I guess it's not to be rude because everybody's going to have their day, but somebody's got to be comfortable with, okay, I'm on the support role today.
Right.
I'm playing pads today. Pads, like we just showed you, pads are important,
100%.
but nobody's going to put the spotlight on the pads player,
Kind of like the bass player.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, unless you're starting a song, Wildfire.
There you
Something
go,
like
like
that.
Carson did. Okay,
Yeah.
there you
Yeah.
go.
So pads
Well-
still have their day.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings it to a serious note. If we're doing this to be seen,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
we just need to get off the stage anyway,
I agree.
right? It's not about that. It's if we have if we have 3 musicians or we have 7 or 8 musicians on stage, we're one band, right? And
Yep.
that's how we look at it. What are we doing to serve the music? Not what are we doing or
How
playing
can the music
to be
serve us?
Exactly. What are we playing so we can be seen?
Right.
Yeah. So I think we're talking, I guess, one thing I was saying about today on this topic of maybe instruments fitting. And I know, so playing a lot of bass, I have those days where it feels like sometimes, and this is pointless, because as
Have you ever muted the bass in a mix?
yeah.
It's important.
But I remember there was one time where it was a long, long time ago. I was asked to go play bass at a service in a different church. Obviously not away from my normal services, but it was a off night scheduled service and permission of my pastor to go. But I remember I got over there and the church was like piano drums. That's all they had. Which we've said in this podcast before is like if you have piano and drums, you can make it.
Yeah. Well, some churches make it on just piano.
Just piano, or but anyhow, they just had piano and drums. I remember getting there, and we start practicing, and it's all of their musicians and singers that would normally be there. The only thing added was a bass player, and not even a good one, But the only thing they added was a bass player, and I remember just the way that they reacted, saying, like, oh, this is what it's like having a bass player, and just like, even though if we're in service and you take out a bass player at our church, it's like, okay, but
A lot of times though, he'll switch up the piano to where
you're playing lower, yeah.
And you're feeling that.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like we don't realize it, but you take somebody that doesn't have it, and then you throw that in the mix. You may think I'm a bass player, I'm not important, but there's some people that are like, they're desperately needing that because it is important. Same way with aux, and it's like it's not important until maybe, I don't know if it's not available or what the correct term is there, but you might feel like your job isn't important until there's going to be some point where it's just like, wow, either you're going to be in a moment where it's like, that pad makes this sound so much better, or in a point where it's like, man, if there was an aux key here,
so that
would sound good.
We've had situations where there was aux keys during practice, and then maybe somebody had to leave due to sickness or emergency or whatever, and it wasn't in the service.
Yeah.
The song is a completely different song. I mean, especially if it's a slower song and they were feeling that background, you got to rethink, okay, to keep this from being a distraction, what does this song need? I should probably open the hi-hat even more.
Isn't that always the solution?
It's always the solution. But
I'm sorry.
I guess what we're saying is if you're gonna dedicate, or if you're gonna go as far as getting all these instruments, having people play these instruments, training them to play these instruments, do it to where everybody is not playing all over on top of each other's stuff. Make it a band.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's easy to just sit here and say, but it takes practice. It takes time. I would say aux keys is probably the easiest thing to practice because you can play any song and just do your own aux keys because there's really no set way to play them, unless you're going per the track. And sometimes you can, but I mean, you can make your own.
That and your options.
Same thing as lead guitar. You can pull up any song and play your style of lead guitar to it.
I would argue that singing and drums is the easiest to practice because you always have your voice.
You hop over there on that drum stool.
And you always have your knees.
And you always
Just kidding.
What am I supposed to do if I don't have a guitar?
I agree.
That's it right there.
And it's so crazy because I would love to play the bass. I need to learn it.
Here we go. We're all talking about instruments that we want to. We're gonna have a night where we just blow everybody out and like everybody swapped around. We're gonna have Caleb on piano.
That means you get drums because that's really what you want to do.
That is really what I want to do.
What
Too
does
bad
that
that's
leave
not
me?
what my
Guitar?
hands
I
want to do.
can't. That's the one instrument I know nothing
Can't
about is
grasp.
guitar. I need to work on it.
Well,
But
then-
no, you're right with aux keys. So I would, along with everything we've just said, if you're an aux keys player listening to this, if you're wanting somewhere to start, pick you an instrument. Strings, organ, pads. Pick one of those and research it, study it, play that. When you get comfortable with that instrument, even though it's a patch or a sound, move on to something else. I'm not going to play an organ the same way I play a set of strings.
Right.
I'm not going to play an organ the same way I'm playing lead synth or an EP, an electric piano, right? They're all different and they're each their own instrument, even though you're all playing them at the same station.
Yep.
So take one, learn it very well, research it, study it, watch videos on it, then tackle one of the others. You're building your arsenal of instruments, if you will.
And now we cut to the.
That's right. You've
Man.
made it. We have a little bit of a demonstration for this. Since we tackled this topic, we really wanted to put actions to our words. So we will see y'all in just a bit.